Hello and welcome to Personal Branding, the IoD Communications webinar number 3. I can see more participants joining. Please let us know where you're dialing in from today. Great to see you here. Thanks so much for being a part of this. We have over 470 registered for this evening, so it's great to see you here. Please put in the chat where you're dialing in from. I am in London and it is dark. My co-host Jeremy will also be presenting tonight, and we have 3 amazing speakers who can't wait to share their insights about personal branding. So I can see more people attending. Hello, Marie from Wolverhampton. Autumnal Windsor, how lovely it must be there. Watford, Philip, hello, good to see you. Sarah Birkby from Buckinghamshire, lovely. And
Sarah, hello, long time. I know Sarah.
Fantastic. Staffordshire, we've got Salford, Lancashire. That's my heartland. Solihull, Farnborough. Jenny, hello. Great to see you. Putney, Kirsty, hello. Thanks for joining again. Oslo, Cynthia, welcome. Far Traveller. Melissa from Sheffield. Romsey, hello, Beverly. Oh, we can see the chat coming in. Amandeep, hello. London, lots of London. Great to see you.
That's great. We've got a really interesting session for everyone as everyone's coming in today, and some great speakers. So thank you very much for joining us. As Vanessa said earlier, we've got over 400 registered, 480 I think registered tonight. So that's fantastic to have you all along. And we've got people coming in from, well, all over the country, certainly Dorset, Epsom, Hereford. Great
Arnhem,
spread
Jenny's
today.
neighbour, Sheila, hello, welcome. Great to see you. Coulston, Kings Langley, Birmingham. And it's around 2 past, so we will start. And welcome everyone, and over to you, Jeremy. Next slide, please, just Shaq.
Thank you, Shaq. Well, just to say, as everyone's coming in now, we'll go through the agenda. We're going to do the quick welcome now. Please keep your comments coming into the chat. We're then going to talk a little bit about our Business Extra webinar series before getting on with the main part of this evening's agenda, which is to have Advita Patel, Leela Singh, and Authentic Alexandra Galvids, talking about personal branding and all the different aspects of it, which is going to be really lively. And then we will have a chance to have a live Q&A, and we've got 15 minutes of that before we round up things for 7 o'clock. So really looking forward to it. Vanessa, do you want to let everyone know how they can connect and interact tonight?
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Good evening and welcome everybody again. I'm Vanessa Dalbusco, Marketing and PR Ambassador for IoD Central London. Please let us know where you're dialing in from today by typing in the chat box. Thank you very much. There are 3 ways you can engage today. Many of you have already discovered the chat function. We recommend you change the audience to say all panelists and attendees so you can interact with each other too. If you have a question for the panel, please put it in the Q&A box. We recommend you use the Q&A because we'll not be checking the chat for questions. So questions in the Q&A, and you should be able to like the questions that are your favorites. That makes sure we answer the questions that you want answered. So questions into Q&A, go in there and like your favorites. And the final way to engage is watch the chat, because shortly we'll be posting a link to a LinkedIn post. Please comment on the post to engage with fellow attendees. Once again, that link will shortly be posted in the chat and will be a great way for you to connect with each other by commenting on the post. I think there's about 200 people already here so far, so that's great. Questions in the Q&A, interact in the chat, and comments on LinkedIn. After the main event, we'll open the networking session. This is a great opportunity to meet your peers in a fun and relaxed Zoom environment. Please grab a glass of something and join us. We'll post the link in the chat towards the end. This session is being recorded. And over to David Stringer-Lamar, Chair of London Region.
Excellent, terrific, Vanessa, Duncan, Shaq, and team. So my name's David Stringer-Lamar, and I'm Managing Director of Fortius Consulting London, and I have the honour of being the chair of the dynamic region, which is known as London Region, part of the strong IoD family. So terrific all these people engaging with us across the United Kingdom. And I noticed as well, may I give a special welcome to Tanya, who says she's joining us from California in USA. Interesting days over there indeed. So maybe we can pick that up in the networking as well, all about brands which are going on there as well. So for those of you who are not members of the Institute of Directors, what a peculiar thing not to be. Anyway, there we are. So 1903 we were founded, 1906 the Royal Charter. We have over 26,000 business leaders here in the United Kingdom. We have 7 overseas branches. Also just saying hello to somebody I saw there coming up from Guernsey as well. We're members of the Global Network of Director Institutes, so roughly 300,000 directors all around the globe. And one good thing about IoD London region is we reach out across the country, we reach out across the globe. What are we here to do? To help make business happen. So really excited about tonight's event. Now the IoD has 4 pillars that we look at. Corporate governance, because well-run companies mean excellent performance and less chance of things going wrong. Director skills, highly skilled directors, same kind of thing, good companies. We also do a lot of advocacy, and you can imagine how busy we are at the moment in the present interesting times given to us by COVID. And of course, we believe in enterprise. And really, that's where this comes in for me, as it were, because meeting our star-studied panel, it's all about your brand, but how your brand can help your own company's performance. So really looking forward to that. IoD London region has 2 strong, powerful branches within it. IoD City of London, Jeremy's a member of that one. IoD Central London branch, Vanessa's a member of that one. So you can see how we work very strongly together in excellent partnerships. There are 11 special interest groups here in London, and we do these events as well, all aimed at helping members, friends, stakeholders really engage with each other and learn. And I'm so grateful, as I say, to our 3 top experts here for sparing the time to share some of their considerable wisdom with us. So in the chat there, you've heard from Vanessa. Tell us where you're from, that's fine, but tell us about you as well. Tell us about your business. Let's try and get some connectivity here, gang, and keep the economy going along in these times, getting ready to really succeed together as a whole community of business people. Also, get those questions coming in. I want to see at least 20 or 30 questions in there. You can upvote them. And of course, we'll all be meeting each other in the networking. We're now ready. Let's get going. And hopefully this time I'll give it back to the right person. And I'm going to bet this time it's Vanessa. Vanessa, hopefully back to you.
Thank you very much, David. So now I'd just like to provide a little bit of context around tonight. Welcome to IoD London, Your Personal Brand. So it's the 3rd and final in a 3-part communications leadership series brought to you by the IoD London team throughout the second half of 2020. So what is a personal brand and how can you use it to influence customers, stakeholders, and your team? We're pleased to welcome you tonight where we'll explore different ways to develop your personal brand to help you grow your business. We'll discover practical tips on how to use your social media, why and how to get involved in public speaking, podcasts, webinars and events, the pitfalls and successes of a more public profile, and how to harness the power of your own networks to create a strong community to share your successes and celebrate theirs. Over to you, Jeremy, for the introductions.
Hi, Shaq. Would you mind moving the slides 2 forward, please, so we can see our expert panel as we start to introduce them. Firstly, we're honoured really with getting them. It's a really esteemed panel, and I'm glad there are so many people along tonight to enjoy their input. But firstly, we have Advita Patel. Now, Advita is the Managing Director of Comms Rebel, an internal communications and employee experience consultancy based in Manchester. She's also the co-founder of A Leader Like Me, and that's a subscription service she's founded helping women of colour succeed in their leadership roles. Advita is a qualified coach and mentor and works with teams and individuals to help them achieve their goals and build their confidence. She is also a chartered PR practitioner and a board director and fellow of the Chartered Institute of Public Relations. Welcome, Advita. Leela Singh, second of our speakers tonight. Leela Singh is an accomplished sales and finance professional, originally training as an accountant 6 years ago. Leela set up My Brand, a personal brand and coaching consultancy. She has delivered keynotes, workshops and training sessions in the UK and overseas for many leading organizations, including Hewlett-Packard, IBM, 3M, Dow Jones, Santander, and the BBC. So Leela delivered her first TEDx talk last December and is an award-winning author. Welcome, Leela. Back to you, Vanessa, to introduce Authentic Alex.
Thank you, Jeremy. Our final speaker has been named LinkedIn Top Voice UK twice and is an official LinkedIn learning instructor. She's best known for blogging under the hashtag Authentic Alex, where she smashes one stigma at a time. She's also the co-creator of LinkedIn Local, the biggest hashtag campaign on LinkedIn that created an offline community and scaled it in over 100 countries and 1,000 cities. She now helps individuals and businesses grow their presence on LinkedIn, helping them find their sense of purpose and tell their own stories. By doing that herself, she's attracted work from brands such as Shell, Deloitte, Dyson, Microsoft, BP, and Fiverr, all through the power of building her personal brand and thought leadership on LinkedIn. Welcome, Alexandra Galviz. And now for our first speaker, Advita Patel.
Hello everybody. So good to see so many of you on tonight's session. So I really hope you find it useful. And thank you, Jeremy and Vanessa, for hosting and doing such a great introduction to everyone. I've only got 10 minutes, so I'm not going to bore you with my background, but I am going to tell you two things about me and the reason why I am talking about how to be more visible and thrive in your business. So a little story. So in June 2018, I had
Sorry, I just might ask Shaq to stop sharing the slides.
Yeah,
so
of course.
See you. Thank you.
It's okay. So in June 2018, I had never spoken at any public event. My personal brand wasn't great. I wasn't really known in my industry. I did the odd thing, but I wasn't recognized. And something happened in 2018, which really knocked my confidence. And I discovered something called Imposter Syndrome. So those of you who don't know what Imposter Syndrome is where you basically feel like you're a bit of a fraud, you don't belong, you think you're going to get found out one day, and you just, it's not a space for you to be in. So I spent quite a lot of my time researching imposter syndrome and confidence and what it meant. And then that's when I kind of started to understand a little bit around personal brand and why personal brand was really important. So I've really focused my energy in discovering my personal brand and why visibility is really important to me. So in the next 7 or 8 minutes, I am going to share with you 5 things that have worked for me. It's not going to be an overnight fix. So those of you who are looking for how to get 1 million followers in 3 weeks, that's not going to happen. But I am going to share with you 5 practical tips that you can take away with you as soon as this webinar is over and hopefully make a difference. And the reason I say this is because it has made a difference to me and the work that I do. So since I decided to focus on my personal brand and visibility, I have been named as a future leader. I was recognized in the top 100 Asian influencers in the North, and I was also recognized as a global influencer for employee experience, the industry that I'm in as well. And all because I decided to step up and step out of my comfort zone and start putting myself out there a little bit and celebrating the work that I do and the industry that I'm in as well. So kicking off with tip 1. Tip 1 is try and discover what is your purpose in terms of where do your people hang about. Who are your people? What do they do? Where are your clients? Where are your customers? Whether you work for yourself or you work in an organization, discover who your clients are and who your customers are and what do they want. What problem are you trying to solve and what is it that they want from you and how are you going to do that? And the reason I say this is because I've seen people, I suppose, try to be a jack of all and not master of any. And that can really send some confusing messages out there when it comes to your personal brand. And one thing I did when I decided to launch my business was discover what it was that I wanted to do in my career and what brought me joy. And I say this quite a lot, actually, and it is about what brings you joy, because otherwise, what's the point of working if it's not making you happy? So for me, it's like, where are my clients? Where are my customers? What are they doing? Where they're hanging about? What problem do I want to solve out? And the big thing is remembering where is it that they're hanging out? What are they doing? And what is the purpose that you're trying to do? So before you do anything, think about where your people are hanging out and what are they doing. Number 2, and this is a big one, is being reliable. And the reason I say this is because put in the question box if you're guilty of really throwing out a load of content over a period of time because you're really focused, and then you get really busy, lots of clients come your way, and then you disappear off the face of the earth. And then you come back again when your clients have gone again and you need some more clients, and he's trying to push that a little bit more. The problem in doing that is that you're losing that trust that you're building with individuals. And what people want from everybody like ourselves is that reliability, that consistency. They know that when you go to one of whatever platform you're sharing your information on, that you're going to be there and you're going to be sharing some stuff that they're going to find really interesting. And what I hear, I should say, from a lot of people when I talk about being reliable is time. So people always go, I don't have time. I just don't have time to be everywhere and do everything. And I get it. We're busy people. Most of us are solo business owners. We don't have massive teams underneath us, or we're trying to catch up and we've got a to-do list as long as our arm. But it's really, really important that you plan your content. So, and what I mean by planning your content is take an hour, 2 hours on a Sunday, write down a list of things that you want to talk about for the upcoming week, and pick a channel that works for you. You don't have to be everywhere. And this is another mistake that a lot of people make, is that they try to be everywhere. So they've got a LinkedIn, they've got a Twitter, they've got a Facebook, they've got TikTok, they've got Snapchat. There's a multitude of channels out there, and sometimes you can end up stretching yourself too thin and you don't end up doing any of them any good at all. Find out where your clients are, like I said, and you would have done that when you do your discovery work at step 1, and dedicate that time. And it's okay for you to have several channels, there's nothing wrong with that, but make sure if you are short of time, you're focusing your energy on one channel that gives you the best outcomes, and plan your content around that. But it's really important that you show up, and you show up frequently, and you don't let people down. So if you say you're going to be visible on LinkedIn, then make sure you're posting on LinkedIn on a regular basis, and you're posting stuff that it matters to the people that you're working with. Don't disappear when you get busy. And that's really important, because building trust is really, really important in terms of your personal brand, and people want to buy into you. And we've all heard it. We know many of us have probably done marketing programs and courses, but people do buy people, and people want to get to know you first and get to know who you are and what you're offering them. Step 3, building your community. Community and connections is really important to me. And it will change the way you work in terms of your business. And it can be quite lonely. And I think what we've discovered over the last 9 months, where most of us have gone virtual, working for yourself without a team around you, it can be quite challenging at times. But building a community, they're going to be your champions. And what I mean about building a community, and my favorite motto in life is, if you were everyone's cup of tea, you'd be a mug. So don't try and appease everybody, because if you try to appease everyone and you try to put your comments out there so you're attracting lots of people, you're not going to attract anyone. So think about your community that you're building. Think about when you need, where they are. And what I did was I started a newsletter in March. I hate the term newsletter because it is overused, I say. So I like to think, and it could be cheesy all you like, but I like to think it's a letter to my friends. So I like to write an update every couple of weeks to my community, telling them what I'm up to, what I've been doing, where they can find me, sharing some really useful articles to them that they will find useful as well. telling them about jobs that they might be interested in that I've seen in my network. I'm lucky because, like I said, I have quite a big network in terms of the work that I do with the Chartered Institute of Public Relations, and that was purposeful. So I knew that in order for my brand in the industry that I work in, which is comms and PR, I had to up my game in that area and make sure that people knew me and understood me as a champion of internal comms and employee experience. So that's what I want to try and give to other people. So I build that community. I make sure that I have my champions and my cheerleaders, because these are the people who are going to be talking about you when you're not there. These are the guys who are going to be in that room when they're giving you kudos and making sure that you can come in. It saves
1
you.
minute, please, Advita.
Yeah, sure. So that is, that's one of the big things that you need to really think about. One of the last tips is make sure that you are engaging with others. So you're not leaving just comments, and you are actually engaging and you're having a conversation. I've seen lots of people, again, write one comment and then disappear and do a selling thing and not really engage with them. So when you're talking to people, engage with them, have a chat, make sure you connect with them. We've all been guilty of receiving those LinkedIn requests at times when people are asking to connect because you've got connections in common, and then they disappear. So then they appear again and try and sell you something. So try not to be one of those individuals, because you will turn people off. And the final tip is give more than you take. And what I mean by that is that don't be protective over your content, because it's really important that you're sharing your knowledge, you're sharing your expertise, you're giving as much as you can to your community. So mentor people, volunteer to speak with schools and universities, give people a chance to get to know you as an individual and as a person, and make sure that you are sharing top tips. So if you're going to write blogs, write a blog, but share the top tips. Don't be worried that they're going to take this information and make sure that, that your intellectual property is going to go. So take those points on board, put them in action, and I promise you it will make a difference to your visibility.
Thank you, Advita. Such useful tips. And there are some great comments in the chat. Just loving your work. Thanks again.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Yeah, purpose, reliability, community. It's fantastic. Thank you. And now for our second speaker, Leela Singh.
Thank you, Vanessa. And good evening, everyone. It's great to see so many of you on here. So I'm going to share a little with you on my take on personal branding, what it is, why it's important, and a few tips for you to take away. So first of all, what is personal branding? And Advita's covered some of this already. It's others' perceptions of you. It's your reputation amongst your peers and in your industry. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. And it's the feeling that one experiences when they meet you, when they work with you, and when they hear your name mentioned. Because remember, feelings create lasting perceptions. And why is personal branding therefore important? It's critical to understanding who you are, what you stand for, and what you want to be known for, both personally and professionally. And it's integral to all stages of your career or your business. So whether you're starting out or you're established, whether you're seeking to change role or advance your career, whether you're looking to be more visible or to be a more effective leader, or simply to create an industry profile. And most importantly, there are so many competitors in your space that you need to stand out. So it is time to start building and refining your personal brand so that you can create a strong competitive advantage. Before I share my 5 tips, I'd like to share with you a quote that is very pertinent, I believe, to the topic of personal branding. And it comes from a prevalent sales trainer called Zig Ziglar. And he said, "I have always said that everyone is in sales. Maybe you don't hold the job title of salesperson, but if the business you are in requires you to deal with people, then you, my friend, are in sales." And why do I share this with you? I share it because we all are working with other people. We're all interacting with other people day to day. And therefore, as Advita mentioned, we want people to know, like, and trust us, because that's when they want to do business with us. That's when they want to work with you, to have you in their team, to promote you, to hire you for the next opportunity. So we want people to be gravitating towards us, and therefore it's important to build a strong personal brand. So I'd like to share with you some key steps to building this. Number one is to get clear on your non-negotiable core values in business. Why is this important? It's important because we need to understand what drives our behavior and also enables us to make decisions more easily. So I'll give you an example. My top 4, let's say, core values are non-negotiable in the way that I show up, the way that I do business, and in terms of my work ethic are, number 1, integrity. So integrity through everything that I do, every decision that I make. Number 2 for me is leadership. And what that means for me is being a leader in the way that I show up in my business and personally, but also in the way that I work with my clients to enable them to be more effective leaders. Number 3 is growth. And growth for me is about always investing in yourself to grow, to both personally and professionally, to learn more, to take risks, to step outside of your comfort zone. And that's also reflected in the work that I do with my clients and enabling them to grow and to show up as the best version of themselves. And number 4 for me in terms of my core values is excellence. And that is reflected in the way that I deliver my business, my services, and also the customer experience that people have when they come to me and when they work with me. So those are my core values. So what are they for you? Think about your work ethic, the way that you show up, what you do, what is non-negotiable for you in the workplace, because those are the things that help you to drive your decisions. And it's something we often don't give consideration to. So give some time to this, because when you get clear on what your core non-negotiable values are, they'll also help you to show up more congruently in everything that you do and therefore more authentically, but also to be aligned in your decision making and to make those decisions far more easier. Number 2, what do you want to be known for? You may remember I mentioned earlier about what people say about you when you're not in the room, people's perceptions of you. And often we believe that we know what people think of us because we know how we come across, but actually it's not necessarily always the same as the way that other people perceive us. So ask yourself the question, are your perceptions of how you currently come across aligned with how other people perceive you? I would invite you over the course of the next couple of days to reach out to 5 people in your network. And I'd mix it up a little. So maybe people that you report to or have in the past, someone who's your mentor, people in your peer group, and also maybe 1 or 2 people that have reported to you at some point. So look to aim for 5 people. Of course, you can make it more than that, and reach out to them and simply ask them to share with you in either 3 words or 3 sentences the first 3 things that come to mind when they hear your name mentioned. Now, it's unlikely that anyone's going to give you negative feedback. However, when you do receive that feedback and you elicit that information, ask yourself, are you happy with what people's perceptions are of you? And is that aligned with the way that you feel you're showing up? In other words, is there something there that nobody's mentioned about you that you truly believe is one of your core values and how you show up? And if that is the case, what do you need to then do to close that gap? Because we can get to influence other people's perceptions of us, but we need to start from the point of understanding how people perceive us before we can influence that if we need to create that shift. So I invite you to do that over the course of the next few days. And number 3 is practice self-awareness. Why is this important? Because many people go through life almost unconsciously unaware of their thoughts, their inner dialogue. And often the inner dialogue, the thoughts that we have are the biggest things that are holding us back from moving forward, from propelling ourselves forward in our career, in our business. And until we get tuned into that, that will continue to happen and that will result in self-sabotage. So what we can do differently is to practice self-awareness. And this is habitual. It's something we do over time. We continue to practice it. And how do we do that? We tune into or check in with ourselves on the thoughts that we're having and ask yourself, are these thoughts serving me in any given situation? You'd be surprised at what you come up with. And if you do this daily, at the end of a day, just check in with yourself. What thoughts were I having during that situation today? What could I have done differently? You'll start to become more aware of the thoughts that you're having. And also ask yourself, those thoughts that you realize you're having, Would you speak to your 5-year-old child in the same way that you're speaking to yourself? I often ask my clients this, and they will always say no. Why? Because we always encourage children. We want them to rise, we want them to shine, we want them to be their best self. But we don't often talk to ourselves in that way. So start to bring that habit into your daily routines, because often we're talking about not being good enough, not being smart enough, not being attractive enough. And therefore, these are the things potentially that will hold us back. Number 4 is manage your state. Why is this important? It's important because, let me ask you this. How many times have you been about to enter a situation where you're feeling anxious, you're feeling stressed, worried, maybe even angry or unsure of yourself and lacking confidence in a particular situation? We all have those moments when something's not quite right, when we're feeling out of kilter a little bit and we're not showing up in the best possible way. But what can we do in that situation to influence that? Well, what we can do is we can breathe. It's really that simple. And people often laugh when I suggest this, but it's very, very powerful. So I would invite you, the next time you're entering a situation, whether it's a meeting, a Zoom call, a presentation, something where you're feeling anxious, stressed, frustrated even, take 3 slow, deep breaths. Breathe in for the count of 6, hold for the count of 3, and breathe out for the count of 6. And do this 3 times. And this will relax your entire physiology and result in a situation where you feel more grounded, you'll feel more in control and calm, which means you're showing up in the best possible way. And more importantly, it means that you'll show up with a very considered response to the situation you're in, to the questions that you're being asked, and anything that could trip you up potentially, which creates an entirely different experience to if you had shown up feeling anxious, stressed, worried, and not completely grounded and in control.
Got 1 minute, please, Leela.
Thank you, Vanessa, is to breathe. And finally, number 5 is to build connection. And building connection, as I mentioned earlier, what is personal branding? It's about the feeling that people have when they hear your name mentioned, when they work with you, when they meet you. So how can you do that? How can you build stronger connection? Express a genuine interest in other people and make eye contact, smile at people when you're talking to them. And particularly now in the remote working situation that many of you will be in, how can you do that effectively? Remember, have your camera at eye level. Many people I jump on calls with, they're looking down into the laptop, which is on the desk. So the camera is much lower and you're looking down at someone. And subconsciously that feeling isn't great. So you want to have your camera eye level. You want to be talking to the camera, not talking to all the little faces on the screen, and to remember to smile and to check in, because this creates a greater connection for your audience, whether it's one person or many. So to summarize, the 5 tips for you to take away are to identify your core non-negotiable values in business. Number 2 is to get clear on what you want to be known for and elicit the perceptions of at least 5 people in your network and identify where there are gaps to close. Number 3 is to practice self-awareness, tune into your inner dialogue. Number 4 is to manage your state, to simply breathe. And finally, number 5 is to build a connection with others. Thank you very much, and I hand you back to Jeremy.
Leela, thank you so much. That was so many brilliant practical ideas there. I'm certainly going to be going out and asking 5 people what they think of me. God knows what they're going to say, but I will go and ask them anyway. So now, very quickly on, moving on, we're going to go to Alex, and she's going to look specifically at improving our personal branding on LinkedIn. Thank you, Alex. Over to you.
Thanks, Jeremy. So back in July 2015, so almost about 5 years ago, I started to create content on LinkedIn. And at the time, there was no real kind of, I guess, sort of vision in mind as to what it would turn into. But I had this idea that I had just graduated from university a few years back, and I wanted to give back to the person that I never had. So I wanted to create content for students and graduates. And this was a time where creating content on LinkedIn wasn't really that sexy, or at least not in the way that it is now. And so I started to blog about my experiences, what I wish I'd known, what I was learning along the way in my professional career. And over time, I started to build a small audience and went from about 300 to 3,000 followers over the space of 2 years. In February 2017, I decided that I was going to quit my corporate dream job as the head of training and development for a financial services company. And I wrote a post on LinkedIn that had a little story about a little girl that dreamed of working in the high-rise 1 Canada Square, and having reached the 45th floor, realized that her definition of success was wrong. It was based on money, power, and status, and that sometimes it takes getting to where you want to be to realize it's not where you're meant to be. That post went viral. And by the time I got to my leaving drinks, 80,000 people around the world had read this. And this was very much the first evolution of my personal brand, where I shifted from the student graduate audience to a much larger global audience, and where the idea I had in terms of creating content shifted into something more related to mental health and my own personal journey. So I continued creating content on LinkedIn, and over time, I've learned what works and what doesn't. So I'm going to share as much as I can in the short few minutes that I have with you. So whether you like it or not, you have a personal brand. If you Google yourself or you Google anyone else, usually there's things that come up. The same goes for your LinkedIn. And very often I hear people sort of embarrassed of like, oh, someone's going to look at my LinkedIn profile and it doesn't look that great. And that's really, important for anything, whether you're looking for a job, whether you're looking for clients. It's really that first perception and image that people think and instantly think of when they're looking at your profile. So let's start there. The thing I want you to focus on is your shop window. And what I mean by that is that's your LinkedIn banner, your LinkedIn photo, your headline, and your summary. It's the first thing that people see when they go onto a LinkedIn profile. These are really, really important. So how do we put these into action in terms of your LinkedIn profile? Your banner is an opportunity, or take it as your digital billboard, to tell people instantly who you are in terms of having some form of branding. If you run a business, if you're part of a business, again, some form of branding, telling people what you do, maybe having keywords, your website, a call to action. These are lots of ideas that you can have in there, but please put something in there. Don't leave it as a template. Your photo, again, try and make it stand out. Very often we see terrible photos. So make sure that these days with the quality of your phone camera, you can have really good high quality photos. Again, brand perception. Next thing is looking at your headline. So this is where you tell people, what do you want to be known for, and who are you, and how can you help them? It's a short space, so use it wisely, but make sure that you've got keywords in there, because if anyone's looking for what you do, that's the keywords there that are going to come up in their search. And then the next part, which is the part that lots of people never touch and is such a missed opportunity, is your summary. And that's one of my favorite parts of a LinkedIn profile, because it's the opportunity to really go into your story and who you are as a person. Believe it or not, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, people that offer what you offer, whether it's you as a person that's looking for a job or you as a business owner. So how are you going to stand out from the crowd? And that's where your story comes in, because it's absolutely unique to you, and you can show people what makes you unique compared to the next person that they may potentially hire over you. So these are the 3 key components to look at in terms of your LinkedIn profile. Then we go on to the strategy. So before anything, when you are building your personal brand on LinkedIn, you need to understand why you're building your personal brand on LinkedIn. When clients come to me and they say, I'd love to work with you, and then I ask, okay, why? What are you trying to achieve? And they don't know. I say, okay, either we can look at this together or go off and think about it and then come back to me. The reason being is that you will have to know what is your North Star, what is guiding you in doing this work and showing up consistently, because there will be times that you don't feel like doing it. And if you know exactly why you're doing it, it's going to keep you going. The next thing is thinking about, who are you talking to? So you might be creating great content, but if you don't know specifically who you're trying to target in terms of reaching your goal and how they're going to help you, then that's going to be really hard. You can create the most amazing pieces of content, but if your target audience isn't seeing them, then what's the point? So think about, who is it that I'm trying to look to engage with, and also make sure that they're in your network. So not just find them, but connect with them, build relationships with them, have virtual coffees with them, engage in their content. These are all small strategies that you could use in order to create your personal brand. And personal brands aren't grown individually, they're grown with people as well. You will get there a lot faster when you collaborate with others too. And then you need to think about, okay, well, what else do I need to be doing? I'm a massive advocate of LinkedIn, as you can probably tell, But I would definitely recommend that you use other strategies as well as LinkedIn. So what do I mean by that? There are lots of ways that you can build your personal brand, not just through LinkedIn. So you can be on podcasts, you can speak at events like this, you can network with people online or offline. Whatever you're doing, use LinkedIn as the vehicle to showcase your personal brand. So if you are on a podcast, share your podcast on LinkedIn. If you're speaking at an event, share that you're speaking at an event on LinkedIn. Use that as your primary vehicle to show people all the things that you're doing in order to build your personal brand. And then we're going into the content side of things. So think about, what do you enjoy writing about the most? Now, someone recently asked me, Alex, but what if I don't really want to write about what I do for a living, and I have an interest that's not necessarily completely related to what I do? And I said, well, great, write about that. It's not, I think people think that you have to write about what you do for a living. Now, I'm a very good example of having built a successful personal brand on LinkedIn, and you will never, ever, ever see me speak about LinkedIn on LinkedIn in my content. I'm very strange in that way, but that's because the kind of marketing I do is slightly different. I get people to buy into my journey, and when they buy into my journey, they know, like, and trust me, and then it's through that they look at my profile, see what I do, get in touch, and then they become a client potentially. And again, the content that I write about are things that are really important to my heart. So I talk a lot about things that are stigmatized, or things around mental health, or my own sort of journeys and life changes, etc. So very personal to me. So don't think that it has to be absolutely specific to what you do for a living. And then Leela mentioned your values. So what ways are you showing your values? Is it in your summary? Is it in your profile? Or is it also in your content? It's really important that when you are creating content, your values are oozing out. Now, I obviously have the obvious value of Authentic Alex in my brand, in my company name, and in my content. But if I didn't, I could guarantee you that people would know what my #1 personal value is. And it's so important that you show that, not just in your content, but when people meet you offline at events too. And also, what is your brand anchor? So what do I mean by brand anchor? It's this either a word or an object or a color that links back to you. So if you hadn't noticed on my LinkedIn profile and what I'm wearing, I'm a big fan of red, and you will always see red in my content on my profile. When I'm on stage, there will always be something red. So red is synonymous with Authentic Alex, as well as the word authenticity. So what is your brand anchor, and how can you show that in your content too? Because there's so many people creating content on LinkedIn now. How are you standing out? And as a conclusion, in terms of your personal brand, you want to make sure that you are upgrading your personal brand every now and then. And what I mean by that is that you will evolve as a person. And so naturally your personal brand will evolve too. Like I said, I started off creating content for students and graduates, and then over time, it sort of opened up to a larger audience. So don't worry about having to know exactly what that is, but just get started. And as you go along, you can change it and you can invest in it more. I hired a branding agency last year, and they helped me with upgrading my personal brand, and it looks very different to what it did initially. But don't let it stop you from starting it if you can't do that necessarily right now. And then also make sure that your personal brand reflects who you are offline just as much as who you are online. If I haven't said it enough, authenticity is absolutely key when building your personal brand, because people can sense when you're not being authentic. So whether you are online or offline, you want to make sure that the personal brand is matching on both sides. And then lastly is just be you. It's not that difficult, I promise you. And I know that there's a lot of fear for a lot of people in terms of showing up. Will I be judged? Will people say something? Will, what are people going to think? Will I make a mistake? But you won't know until you try. And I kid you not, usually our mind gets in the way of a lot of these things that can help us. So that's it from me. I've run through that, and hopefully if you've got any questions, put them in the Q&A, and if not, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I look forward to seeing your personal brands.
Thank you so much, Alex. I can testify that your tips work from personal experience. So on a previous webinar, we actually heard the quote, find out who you are and be it like hell. But thank you so much for sharing these great insights. There's so much love in the chat. Thank you for everyone for getting involved. Now we'll open the Q&A. There are some real crackers coming in. Thank you, everyone. The first question is a very popular one from Bina. Thank you, Bina. Bina says, we've always been told not to care what others might think. You do you and be confident. So how does that work with caring about other people's perception about us when we're in the room? And maybe Leela, if you'd like to take this one first, because I think that was your talk. Thank you.
Sure. Bina, so for me, I was asked this question actually just last week, and we've got to remember that not everyone's going to resonate with us. Not everyone's going to like us for who we are, but we want to be showing up as our best self, as confidently as we can. And that's something that's always a work in practice. Work in practice. So you want to ensure that, as Alex just mentioned, you want to be your true self, your best self, because you want to be authentic. If you're trying to be somebody you're not, people will sense it. They may not even realize what it is. They can't put their finger on it, but they'll sense that something isn't congruent in the way that you're showing up, which means they're likely to not trust you. So it's about showing up as your best self. That will land with some people, but it also won't with others.
Thank you, Leela. Alex, would you have a take on that question? You're on mute, sorry.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there will always be people that are not going to like what you're doing. That's a reality. And I think that you need to ask yourself, are those the people that you want to engage with? You know, and that's, at the end of the day, it's probably them doing a favor to you if they're kind of going in a different direction or following someone else, because they're not resonating with who you are and what your values are and what you have to offer. So are you losing something out, really? Probably not. But it's not easy, right? You will always have people that don't like what you do, and it's sort of learning over time how to deal with that.
Thank you very much. Advita, would you like to respond to that question, please?
I think I'm going to go back to my original motto that I said when I was doing my 10 minutes is, you know, if you're everyone's cup of tea, then you'd be a mug. And I have to remember that on a regular basis, because it will stop you doing things. And as you know, as Alex quite clearly said in her talk, you've got to be authentic and genuine to who you are. And as long as you're comfortable and confident that's what you were when you left that room, you will have people who are not going to like you. And that's just reality, sadly. And I was definitely a people pleaser. And I used to proudly call myself the comms chameleon, because I could adjust my personality to fit in with whatever that person wanted me to be. And I recognized that wasn't the right thing, because I was drowning my own personality. And I understand now that that isn't the best to be authentic for myself. So don't worry too much about trying to please everybody. Be authentic to yourself and genuine, more importantly. And don't try to be too much of a people pleaser. And remember that motto, because that definitely drives me forward when I think about you can't be, you know, don't be a mug is what I say.
Thank you, Advita. That was excellent, and from all of you, really interesting answers and very personal answers as well. I've got a second question here that's top of the list on the votes now, from Priya, and she's talking about with COVID, she's experienced an increase of financial advisors and other entrepreneurs on LinkedIn connecting with me, and seconds after accepting, I see a solicitation in my messages. As an entrepreneur myself, LinkedIn is a great place to connect and build business, but this approach feels invasive. What's the right approach? I think probably we should go to Alex as the LinkedIn specialist, but I'm sure everyone else will have some thoughts on this.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that right now. I think more than ever.
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Yeah, so I think it's about thinking like, who do you really want to connect with? I tend to steer away from anyone that's trying to sell me something instantly. And you can probably tell that either there's no message to connect with it. That's already kind of one filter. If there's no message, I'll look at their profile and then see, okay, is this someone that might be of interest to me? If it's not, then I'll probably say no. If there's a message, then that will kind of intrigue me enough to want to find out more. If it's a message that's trying to sell me something, that's an instant no. So it's kind of having these filters of like, what kind of people do you want to connect with? And if you feel after, by the way, like connections aren't permanent. So if you feel like this isn't someone that you want to connect with, or they pitch you straight away, I'll just remove them. So just, you know, it might take a little bit longer, but just think about, who do I want in my network? Because who you add into your network will depend who you're also shown to. And I think a lot of people don't think about this. So LinkedIn does something with the algorithm where it shows your profile to other people. So if you're connecting with a certain, type of person or type of business owner, it will show you to those people. So just be really cautious of who you're trying to attract into your network.
That's really interesting, actually. I didn't quite understand that. And it's funny, with LinkedIn, I don't tend to remove people. So it's interesting to see how you can manage it in that way. Leela, would you like to add anything to that, specifically on LinkedIn?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd agree with Priya. It's actually becoming very frustrating because there are people who really, although you hear so much about not connecting with someone and straight away selling to them, it seems to go over a lot of people's heads because you just keep getting it. And I think for me, to Alex's point, I'm starting to just not feel bad to ignore requests because I can see from what they do that they're going to sell me. That's the only reason they're connecting with me, and they're not the people I want to necessarily see my content. That's not going to serve me, so it's not going to benefit them either. So I would totally agree. I'd be discerning, let's say, about who you allow into your network, should we say.
Brilliant. Advita, anything to quickly add to that before we go on to the next question?
I agree. I think just be cautious about who you accept and see if they put the effort in to know who you are and if they're going to add value to your network. And 100% with Alex, those unconnect button is really useful if they're not adding value.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that advice. And now we have our next question from Alex Rocker. Hello, Alex. Lovely to see a familiar face. Welcome. And Alex says, should one discover one's purpose before establishing one's personal brand? If so, what are the ways to do so? Advita, would you like to start off with this one?
I would say yes. I think it's important to know what you're trying to bring to the work that you're doing. I'm a big fan of understanding your values. So I kind of look at the things that you would want to do and the things you don't want to do and where your values set is and trying to understand that a little bit more. And it's really difficult, it's such a big question, what's your purpose? And it can really knock the confidence sometimes if you can't find that purpose. And it's not about having it nailed. And I think it was Alex that said, it might be Leela, sorry, that said, your brand will adapt as time goes on, and that's absolutely fine. And it'll adjust as you grow in your business and as you grow as a person. But understanding that your values for me is really important, and making sure that you know what they are. And there's lots of different tools online that you can use to do that for yourself, so picking the top 5 or 6 and then really nailing it down and seeing what is going to bring to you in your business and what you want to be known for. So yeah, definitely kick off with that purpose and your values piece, and that will give you a sense of direction and where you want your personal brand to go.
Abby, thank you. Leela, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure, I'd echo what Avita's just shared there, and I think I'm looking at the questions, discovering one's purpose to establish your brand. Your brand is about getting clear on who you are, what you stand for. So going back to your values, how you want to be seen, and actually looking at your behaviors, and are they a reflection and an alignment with that brand that you want to put out there. So that's where we go into asking the question of other people to get their perception of you. There's a number of things you could do within that to really get clear on your purpose, but ultimately it's, what do you want your brand to be? You want it to be your true authentic self, as Alex said. So what does that look like? And often it's difficult to answer that question on our own. So by getting or listing that feedback from people, you can help to build it if you don't know where to start.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And Alex, would you finally like to answer that question?
Yeah, so I'm going to say yes and no to that question. Yes, in terms of what Advita and Leela mentioned, but no in the terms of, I think that people get stuck in trying to figure out why they want to do it. And so it will sometimes stop them from doing it altogether. And so I would say just start doing it, start trying to build your personal brand, and maybe your why will come out off the back of you trying to do that without the stress of having to know why you're doing it. If you're on a time limit because you need to build it for XYZ reasons, like finding a job or getting business, then I would definitely say yes, find your purpose, work with someone and, accelerate that process. But if there's no real urgency, I would also say just start doing it, and you will slowly figure out what your values are, what's important to you, why you want to do that, etc.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. Just time for one last question. We'll have to be fairly brief and quick on this one, but it's an important one, and it's certainly had a lot of votes today. It's Binu who has asked, does signing up for a non-exec role help strengthen our personal branding externally? And how do we go about securing that? Advita, I'm going to put that to you, because obviously you're very involved with the CIPR. I don't think it's just non-exec roles we're talking about, but it's these additional roles, voluntary roles even.
Yes, it's not easy to get a non-exec role. I'm not going to lie. It takes time, and it takes some energy, and you need to build your network and your professionalism to get the non-exec opportunities to get to that area if that's what you want to. And Binu is right. You know, it is important for your brand, you know, in terms of leadership, if that's where you want to move to. But it is about volunteering and potentially giving your time for things like the governor roles in schools and other charity boards that are always looking for non-exec directors, and that's when you can move to the kind of paid roles. But it isn't for everybody, and I wouldn't say that it's a critical thing for you to do, to be honest. It's if you want to do that and you value it. And it's a completely different webinar in terms of how you can get one of those non-exec roles, and I'm happy to. I know Binu, so we can have a chat offline about that. But it is important that you find the right thing for you, and you just don't throw yourself out there, because it is a big time commitment as well.
Got it. Thank you very much for that. I think we're going to have to close things, unless anyone, Leela, Alex, would you like to add to that?
I would just say, in terms of LinkedIn, if that's what you're looking for, whether it's a non-exec role or anything else like that, just put it on your LinkedIn. You know, like, be obvious about it and say, you know, I'm currently looking for a non-exec role, get in touch if you have something that you might fit. It sounds so simple, but you'd be surprised how many people I come across that I coach, and they're like, I want to be a speaker, or I want to be on a board, or I want to do, you know, be a charity trustee. And I'm like, if it's not there, how are people meant to know? So just be obvious and don't be worried about asking.
I think that's an excellent point, actually. Really good. Go ahead, ask. Right. I think we are now going to hand over to David. And David, if you'd like to do a little summary here, if we can move the slides on as well, that'd be great.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Thanks very much to the panel. Thank you very much for the audience as well for those terrific questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but an enormous amount of engagement there. So thank you very much for that. The chat was literally buzzing with excitement in their contradictory views. That's what we want. It's not a love fest here. It is about exploring different views of things. So some of the things I've taken away here from Advita's step up and step out. I like that one. What's your purpose? Be reliable, building your community, engage with others, and give more than you take. Leela, what do you stand for? Clear on the non-negotiable core values. What do you want to be known for? Ask at least 5 people. You said you might not get the negative feedback, but you never know, you might do. And then we had practice self-awareness, manage your state and breathing, and of course, build connections. Alex, thanks for the comments there around LinkedIn as a true expert. Photo headline summary. Who do you want to be talking to? Those targets. Engage with the targets, of course. There's not much point really saying I'd love to engage or meet these people if you're not actually going to engage. So spot on. And I love that bit about personal brands are grown in collaboration, so they don't stand alone. Don't need to just speak about business, speak about other things as well. And you gave some fine examples. And how are you showing your values? And I've done some thinking there. What is your brand anchor? And you said yours is red. So I've decided mine is a white shirt that I'm terribly well known for. So there we are. I've decided it's my brand anchor. I didn't realize that before, but clearly it has been for some time. So I thought a terrific coming together of 3 excellent minds. Let me broaden that to 5 excellent minds, because they're all in this space of connectivity, brand, and of course business growth, because what we've been talking about here, personal growth and business growth as well. Top tips out there, lots of things I would think for engagement and discussion. Big thank you from me to Advita, Leela, Alex, Duncan, Vanessa, Shaq, and indeed all the IoD London team behind this. It takes an enormous amount of effort, way over 200 people, loads of international, loads of everything. It's brilliant. Thank you for being here. Good stuff. Look forward to the networking. It's either back to Jeremy or Vanessa. I've got no idea who, but it's back to one of you. There you go.
Back to
Goodbye,
Jeremy.
finished.
We did prime you before, and it's Jeremy, not Duncan, but don't worry about it. My brand anchor, by the way, is a check shirt, and Shaq, who is helping in the background here doing the technical support, is now supposed to be taking us on to the calendar. So I can tell you, if you want to go one forward, Shaq, that would be brilliant. We can go straight to the calendar. So as David said at the beginning, if we could have that full screen, as David said at the beginning, we have a full program of webinars, and this is Business Extra is an ongoing commitment by IoD London. As you can see, November, we have a really interesting interview with James Timpson coming up on Wednesday, and we've got plenty more. So if you want to go one step on, Shaq, if you could just go one slide forward. 2 events that we're highlighting this week, Wednesday, the 11th of November at 6 o'clock. We have that interview with the retail high street icon that is Timpson's, and hugely successful company, a very interesting CEO and very interesting point of view. So looking forward to that. Please join us for that. And then a week on, we've got our YDF Den 2020. And I think this is something like the 6th year running we've been doing this, a Dragon's Den session. So I'm going to now hand you back, and thank you all, and hand you back to Vanessa, who is telling me to get going.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. It's 7 p.m. and we are going to the networking. Don't go away. But before that, thank you, Jeremy and David. Thank you very much, Advita, Leela, and Alex, and thank you very much for joining. If you enjoyed this evening, please consider membership with great benefits such as these events plus networking, thought leadership, and special interest group community events, and a lot more. There's a special offer right now. IoD will actually waive the joining fee for you. That's a full 20% off the price, or only £17 per month. What a deal. Email the address on the screen if you'd like to know more. Please join our fabulous community. Now we're going to start the networking, so don't go away. Go and grab a glass of something. Come and meet the speakers and your peers. So we have posted a link in the chat. If you copy and paste that link and put it in your browser, you'll be able to join the new event where we'll all come together in the same room. You'll be able to meet everybody. Then we'll go into breakout rooms. It's always fabulous. It's always fun. So please join us. Hopefully everyone's had time to copy the link now on the screen and in the chat and put it in the browser, because I'm going to count down from this meeting and see you in a few seconds in the breakout room. We'll be able to see each other. Yay. Okay, so 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. See you soon. Thank you very much. See you soon.